Thank you very, very much for buying Volume 4 of Angelina's Zydeco Creole and Cajun Cooking. You know, Angelina is my mom's name, and many of the recipes that I share with you today are recipes that were handed down from not only my mother, but also from my grandmother. On this video, we're making 3 exciting dishes. We're making shrimp etouffee, which of course means smothered in a rich mahogany brown gravy, and I might add that you can take that same sauce and add crawfish. So you can make a crawfish etouffee or a shrimp etouffee. Today, we're making shrimp etouffee, and I guarantee this is a wonderful dish for family and friends. The next dish we're making, of course, is smothered pork chops. You know, in Louisiana, I never could figure out how my grandmother would make these wonderful pork chops. But you know what? It stems back to an old African method of slow cooking. And Mama would put those pork chops on, and they would stay on for a long time, and it would just smother and smother. We call it smothering, and smother and smother. And darling, when you'd eat those pork chops, they would fall off the bone. So we're going to share some little tidbits on making perfect smothered pork chops. And guess what? A lot of people think that Creole soul food, Cajun food, or whatever is greasy. No grease whatsoever. Lastly, Zydeco green beans. You know, years ago, Zydeco music was a hip thing. They used to call it la-la dancing. Zydeco means, in French, and I wish my mom was here because she would say it in French for you, no salt meat for the green beans. So we're going to show you how to prepare some easy, delicious green beans using which you prefer. You can use bacon, you can use tasso, you can use smoked turkey, or you can use what we have in Louisiana, which is called pickle meat. So let's get started with Volume 4 of Angelina's Creole Cooking, Creole Cajun Cooking, I might add. So let's start off with the shrimp etouffee. But before we start, let me also share with you the importance of having the right utensils when you decide to prepare some of these dishes. You don't have to have a fancy pot, you don't have to have a fancy skillet, but I would suggest that if you're cooking our food, try to use a nice heavy skillet as I have here. And you're going to see me use this a little later on when I make my roux. But you want to have a nice heavy skillet. Most Creole homes would not be caught dead without a cast iron, but you don't really have to have a cast iron skillet. But try to have the right utensils. You know, always have your big spoons on hand. You always want to have a whisk, and then this is a different kind of whisk, but you want to have a whisk. And of course, if you're making stews and soups and so forth, you want to have a nice pot. This I use for my gumbos and other dishes. This is my favorite pot, and this is what we're going to use to make the shrimp etouffee. The shrimp etouffee means smothered in a beautiful mahogany brown gravy. And the reason I like a pot like this is that I can cook it in that pot, because I'm gonna make my roux in there, I'm gonna put my shrimp in there, everything. I can take that pot off the stove, take it and put it right on the table, so it can go from the stove to the table. So you might want to consider using something like this. It's not absolutely necessary, but let me suggest that you might want to use a wonderful pot that you can go from stove directly to the table. Now, when you're making Creole Cajun food, it's absolutely necessary that you have some of the right ingredients. And some of those include your Creole seasonings and your rice. And would you believe they even have an instant gravy mix? This is by Ragin' Cajun. It is absolutely fantastic when you're making a shrimp etouffee. Sometimes you might want to just, you know, kick it up a little bit and use an instant gravy mix, or you can use this for other dishes as well. So you want to have your good Creole seasonings, and of course you want to have a nice cooking oil, and of course I always recommend sometimes using butter. In fact, most of the times I use butter, and sometimes I'll use the two together. And a lot of cooks today are using olive oil. Olive oil tends to be a little too heavy for me, so I'll use a light oil like a Crisco. Believe it or not, your rice is very important. Now, this is a rice that you can find in most supermarkets, but just try to use a very nice rice. Now, I tend to wash this rice and I take most of the starch out of it, or you can use a parboiled rice. It's really your choice. What would a kitchen be without a KitchenAid appliance of some sort where you can chop your vegetables? Now, you choose to chop it with a knife, but this is so convenient, and I think every kitchen should have some kind of chopper. Now that I've explained to you all the wonderful ingredients as well as the cookware that you're going to need to make this wonderful dish, let me also share with you a little tip, and that is the wine that you serve